I'm currently having an altcoin portfolio, and sometimes there is a period of reflection, which means that you need to consider new coins, whether they should be into your portfolio, whether you should erase some coins. So that's why in this update we're talking about a few ones that I think that are interesting, and I'm also asking you, which ones do you think that I need to add to my portfolio? Let it know in the comments beneath. Now let's get started and see which coins I'm considering to be adding to my portfolio. During these markets, I'm always looking for opportunities to build my portfolio, and OKX is bringing you an opportunity. They are the first fully licensed exchange in Europe with the lowest fees. And to help you a little bit with your portfolio and to celebrate this milestone, they are giving away up to 50 euros in Bitcoin if you sign up today on the exchange. Signing up can be done within 5 minutes, and if you deposit 100 euros worth of crypto, you'll receive the first 20 euros in Bitcoin. Start rebuilding your portfolio today. Go to the link in the description or scan the QR code and enjoy up to 50 euro in Bitcoin. The current portfolio consists of 9 coins, and these 9 coins are all publicly available. Well, kind of, because I'm using the data which I've shown in the previous updates with the spreadsheet in all the mutations that we do. So I constantly keep on updating the actual value, and I keep on having that portfolio because ultimately I believe that being transparent is the way to go. If I get fucked by the markets, then I get fucked just like most of the participants. If I am a winner, then you all are a winner too if you're following like steps of my portfolio, which is fine. I've got 9 coins in my portfolio, of which I've got 4 larger ones and 5 smaller ones. And the 4 larger ones are Optimism, Celestia, BitTensor, and Psy. And the 5 smaller ones are Wormhole, Rocketpool, Renzo, Aevo, and Omni, of which most of them are recent Binance listings that since the article came out were screwed over, as some of them are down more than 90% since the listing. Anyways, you can see that most of the portfolio is currently allocated towards infra and mostly towards the ETH ecosystem. And betting on infra is also what we're doing with the venture capital and capital. I think that crypto has proven that there is a lot of future speculation on things that they are building, but ultimately not much has been built up yet. So we need to bet on infra, because if we don't have infra, we can't have dApps, and that's generally still the thesis, and that's why I keep on betting on these things. And additionally, we didn't have any run on ETH as of yet. So I think that either Ethereum is completely dead and I'm betting on something that's dying, or if we look at BlackRock allocating most funds into the ETH ecosystem and Trump allocating most funds with World Liberty Finance into ETH, there is also an upside there that Ether is just going to be the big one, and that betting on Ether ecosystem coins is providing a higher beta. And there is the case of whether or not the newer coins are still going to yield a higher return compared to older coins. And that is a tricky one, because in 2021, most newer coins outperformed the older ones due to speculation. I think that there's still a case there. But then in this cycle, if we talk about institutional examples or institutional investors, then we also see that institutional investors kind of appreciate it when there is experience and when a project is around for a longer period, because it has proven that they can sustain bad and good markets. And if we look back from previous cycle in 2021, all the coins like NEO or ICX, Icon have died down because of poor treasury management. And that's just not the case at this point. So there's a current imbalance between the two, where there is a thesis that if the newer or the older coins are able to attract a lot of liquidity coming from Web 2, which is completely new, there is a potential case that older coins are going to outperform newer coins. So that makes it tricky, and that makes it interesting to reflect and just have a discussion to see whether or not we should be investing into some of the older coins or instead of the larger coins that we have in our portfolio. So let's question which coins I'm considering. There are a few that I think that are very valuable, and it's not a surprise. We had an interview with the founder of this project. So I'm considering moving back into Chainlink, of course. Why is that? Well, if you look at the interest from institutional investors and the connection between TradFi and DeFi, his thesis is that DeFi and TradFi are not going to be named itself, it's just finance. So a lot of banks are currently looking to allocate or to integrate protocols into their banking system, because with DeFi they are able to actually make a return again. And I think that ultimately to make that connection between the two, you need Chainlink as a oracle or bridge. That's why Sergey is moving a lot into that US ecosystem where he bets on, which is the biggest market in the world. And there is not really any competition when it comes to Chainlink. So that attracts like the entire bunch of liquidity that's might be flowing through Chainlink. And therefore, if they attract the liquidity or are able to do so alongside some of the other projects, then for sure it's going to go through a new all-time high by definition. And if we look at the current valuation of Chainlink against Bitcoin, the valuation is still super low. And it might be starting up a new cycle that if gold comes down and ETH starts to go up, DeFi is the first category that's going to outperform any of the performance of ETH. And it's actually a high risk or high beta risk on asset that is going to attract a lot of momentum into the markets. And that is also why I come up with the second project, which is of course Aave. Aave is currently attracting a lot of interest and the TVL keeps on going up. Price has fallen a little bit, mostly due to the market circumstances, but they kept on building and they are always making money. Even the heaviest crashes on the markets take place and they keep on doing great. So ultimately what Sergey meant with onboarding TradFi with DeFi, it also means that if DeFi is going to be integrated into the banks, then Aave is the main protocol to be integrated into their unlocking way more TVL to generate the revenue on, which means that Aave ultimately is a blue chip, high beta still play where you can have a lot of return. The final one is Sui. Sui is coming from the Meta team, or at least from the old Facebook team. There is, if we look at the chart, one of the strongest charts that we have. It has seen its corrections, just like Aave, also a very strong chart. But it's very understandable that once the markets return back, the money will flow into assets that are actually performing or have been performing. So Sui is high on the radar as it has been yielding a return and will likely continue to do so with its recent improvements with Walrus and all those things. So I think that that is also one that we need to consider. The question is though, should I be moving into those assets instead of having the current ones? We have Optimism, we have Tia, we have Tau, and we have Sai. Ultimately, I think that these four that I have are likely going to have a higher return. The question is, are some of these three that I currently am considering, are they going to yield a higher return in the short term through which I can compound? I don't know. All I know is that I believe that based on the fact that the FTV of the ones that I have in my portfolio is substantially lower than the three that I'm considering, that automatically, if the market circumstances change, will give me a higher return. But I'm considering it, so I'm open also for your comments on this, and I will consider it in the upcoming week. I will gather some data and see whether or not I should be removing one and should be adding one. But overall, the infrastructure and ETH are completely undervalued at this point, through which there is an actual upside potential that I need to take into consideration. It's good to ask yourself questions and reflect on things that you see. So doing this from time to time is required to stay sharp, to basically fully understand your thesis. But making adjustments is actually quite hard to do, because if you're really solid strong on your thesis, then your thesis is if there's an adjustment made on that thesis, it requires a lot of evidence to do so. That's why for now I'm not changing much of my portfolio. In that way I'm sticking to my current portfolio, but I need to take it into consideration, because ultimately the markets have been proven to have a different direction than I was expecting it to do so. And now I need to ask myself, I do believe that these projects are fundamentally strong, but are they going to yield me the return that I'm looking for if the markets go back up, as it becomes a more complex market? So my expectations for the upcoming markets are completely unchanged, but I need to ask myself these questions about reflection of my current portfolio and see whether Chainlink is going to yield a higher return, or Aave or Sui, compared to the 4 ones that I have. So looking forward to your comments. We'll be discussing this in the upcoming weeks. I'll see you again on the next updates. Make sure to subscribe and have a wonderful day. Ciao.